welcome to SketchUp Talk, the only podcast on the airwaves where we talk about, well, SketchUp. I mean, it's in the title. It's really what it is. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me today is Aubree Topai.
Hi.
Aubree is the events manager here at Trimble for the SketchUp group. Welcome.
Thanks. This is a new and exciting experience. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad we could do this for you. All right. So events manager. For anybody who doesn't know an events manager, let's start with a description. What is an events manager?
Okay, good question. So my role at SketchUp is to manage and oversee all of our trade shows, our bootcamp road shows, any pop-up or design weeks that we participate in, and also 3D Basecamp. That's really my bread and butter, my big project that I work on every 2 years. And events manager, there's a lot of different parts of my job. I work with vendors, I oversee a budget, I oversee staff and make sure that they are where they need to be and they also know what the event is about and what they're going to be doing at the event. I plan the scale of the event. So for example, we'll use 3D Basecamp. The design, kind of like a creative director, I overlook and come up with some ideas of how to make the event really unique and different. I also manage food and beverage, and I manage coordination, so setup. You have to set up an event. You also have to be on site at the event, making sure that posters are where they are, or any decor is where it's supposed to be, or even people where they're supposed to be, and then managing strike. So going back to the warehouse, making sure things are put away properly.
So just every single part of anything that happens outside of this building.
Single part. Yeah, events are just an idea until you have someone actually planning it.
Well, so how did you end up here? How does one end up? So in case anybody's listening and they're like, wow, when I grow up, I want to be an events manager for SketchUp at Trimble. So someone out there is thinking that. How did you end up in this place where you're at right now?
Yeah, great question. So when I look back at my career, I've actually been planning events since I was 18. I'm 31 now, so quite a few years. Naturally, it's something I always gravitated towards. I think I enjoy the leadership role and also being really creative and being able to bring like an idea to life. So started there when I was 18, did my prom, which was kind of fun. And then just every time I got an opportunity, like in college, I was planning fundraisers. And then outside of college, and when I became, a big kid and wanted to look for an actual big kid job, I started in marketing, actually. And I was a marketing coordinator who kept getting assigned events. It was really natural for me since I had been doing it for so many years before. So I was pretty good at it. And they realized that. And they actually realized I really enjoyed it, too. I enjoyed the traveling. I enjoyed kind of the thrill of setting up the event. And also being on site, I could talk with people. So like at trade shows, I felt really comfortable engaging and talking with folks who would come into the booth. So from there, they tapped into my talent and I actually became more of a full-time events person. So I just started, kind of the basic way with just a skill that was strong. And I was really lucky to have some bosses and some mentors who nurtured that skill. Mm-hmm. And then I kept doing it. So I worked with a company called Ubisense and I planned their events globally for 4 years. And then from there, I moved over to the entertainment industry and worked for Live Nation or Ticketmaster. And I got exposed to a little bit higher end events, so working with like the NFL or the NBA. So I was really able to push myself to kind of the next caliber from going from a small business to something bigger and grander. And that's really where I realized how fun events could be. And that's, I think, what started to get me really excited. So I did that for a few years, and then it was time for a change. I was ready to take a little bit more of a leadership role and also to just kind of mix things up. So SketchUp came into the picture. And I remember looking at the job being like, this sounds pretty cool, and researching the company and getting excited about it. I had no idea that it would actually be the perfect fit down the line. So it worked out. But if anyone is looking to go to events, I mean, you really, if you're natural or like you're into it and you're kind of a natural, just start planning them. It sounds so simple, but like even just planning them for your friends, parties, that's still an event. So just getting really comfortable talking with vendors and just starting something and executing it.
All right,
Is that good enough description?
That's a good answer. So, and you were the first. Before you were here, SketchUp actually didn't have an events coordinator.
That's correct, which is crazy. Mark Harrison took on a lot by himself. I don't know how he did it. I still look back and I'm like, man, he had like 5 jobs. And don't get me wrong, there was other people who stepped up and took a role, but yeah, I am technically the first. And that's been really exciting because I think that now that someone owns this division, we can do bigger things. And we don't have to stay within the box anymore.
Well, I was going to ask you why one of the things I ask this as we get people in here is, why do you do what you do? And I think you pretty well nailed that. It's pretty obvious this is not just a job to you. This is actually a passion or something you love to do.
Yep.
That's great. All right. So for anybody who is a SketchUp fan, so they know how things like how does the QA person affect their software or the person who designs the website or the UI, but how does an events manager, how does that affect a SketchUp user?
Well, events are the place where you can come in and actually meet SketchUp. It's not just a software anymore. At events, you can not only see the team or meet the team and be with the team, but we try to bring the SketchUp software to life. It's an opportunity for you to kind of step in the software and really get to engage with it in a different way. I'm a big believer in kind of the immersive environments or environments where you can really touch or see or smell or, all those things. And when we do our trade shows, we try to bring the software to life. And sometimes that's just through presentations. But other times, like at IBS, International Builders Show, we brought the HoloLens, we set up a frame, and we wanted you to actually go inside, put it on, and look and see what was going on. So it wasn't just us talking about it, it was actually you experiencing it.
Cool. So it's basically taking that to another level, the relationship and hanging out.
Yeah, the relationship. That's a great way to put it. And I think part of what SketchUp or what makes SketchUp so unique is the community and the people. And at events, that's the perfect opportunity for you to actually engage and talk with people and become one with our community. So
we'll just go to the top. We'll just go to the ultimate thing.
Okay.
You've already mentioned Basecamp.
Yep.
And Basecamp is... What is Basecamp?
So 3D Basecamp is the best place to learn SketchUp, like hands down. It is a place where all of our community, all the 3D modelers come together and mix and mingle with the best of the best, but also feel in their zone because they are around other modelers at their same skill level. So it's a place where they can go and actually like hang out and be in their community. We jokingly say you find your fellow nerd, and I say that in a good way because I'm a nerd too, but like it's the spot where you can be yourself and you can geek out over all things 3D. And not only is it the best place to learn SketchUp, but it's also a lot of fun. And I think that a lot of corporate events miss out on that. That word is just not included anymore. There's kind of this standard old school way of doing events, and Basecamp is not that. It is, I like to say, new school in a way, where you go and you can just be yourself. You could show up in flip-flops and shorts. Cool. Right on. You're going to sit next to someone. You're going to be talking with them. You're going to be high-fiving them because you're going to be like in this experience together. And you're also going to be able to attend a legendary party, which is just like the icing on the cake after a whole week of learning and just, taking in everything around you. So it really is this great immersive 3D space where people can go and just geek out about all things 3D.
So right now, as we're recording this, we are, you probably know exactly how many days, but we're like 8 months out from Basecamp 2020
it's like
in Vancouver.
290 or something like that. That's not exactly right, but I know it's around that.
So that's just setting the stage. I don't know when this will actually air. Maybe we'll launch this like coincident with actual Basecamp. We'll see. But I just want to play on this because so your take on this, the second Basecamp you've done, has got to be a lot different from your first one because you did not know exactly what you were getting into or what this really was.
I didn't. It's true. I came in knowing that it was something special, and everyone kept telling me, oh, Basecamp, it's the best, it's the best. So I knew I was inheriting something really unique. And once I started to plan it and dive into the community, I got it. It really is something unique. It is not your normal conference. There's just so much love involved in it. So the second time around, we're going to take what is the core, the learning, the community, but we are going to elevate it a little bit. We are a little bit bigger this year. We're in an outstanding location, one of the best cities in the world, and we will have a few more people there. So we're going to take all the great things, but we're just going to try to level it up a little bit. So I think it should be really, really, really great when we put all the things, all the magic together.
So I'll say I thoroughly enjoyed 2018. I thought it was
Thanks.
a great time. It was a great show.
It was a great time.
How does it, because you talked about inheriting this, and that is, it was a thing, and Mark inherited it from Aiden, who inherited it from, it goes back years and years and years. So can you talk a little bit about inheriting something that means so much to so many people?
Yeah.
And especially in this point where we're growing. This is not, we're adding, it's a bigger space.
Yep.
It's more people. It's more than what it was before. It is growing. So how does that work where you have to be respectful of what it is, but still move it forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm actually going to use an example. So one of the most important things of 3D Basecamp is the community, right? And if we're growing, we really have to take in consideration how large the space is and how yet we can still make it feel small. So my job is to think of ways to maintain that community aspect. This year, it is a little different that we're not all at one hotel. We will actually be at multiple hotels, but everything will happen at the convention center, the Vancouver Convention Center, including our industry meetup, which is a brand new initiative that we're taking on this year. So that will be an opportunity for the community as a whole to break off into smaller pieces and to really get to engage at a more intimate level with their peers. We also are going to have different lounge areas inside the convention center that really sets up the space for interacting with people in kind of a casual and really nice way. So like the Forest Lounge, for example, not only will we host the industry meetup in there, one of the industry meetups in there, but that also will be the spot where we'll all come together and you can just sit down at a picnic table and plug in your computer and work a little bit side by side next to someone who's in your industry or not in your industry. The other thing we're going to be doing this year is we're capping our room sizes. Last year we had some really large classes, which is excellent. And I'm very proud that those presenters attracted such a large community. But this time we really want to make sure it feels more intimate. So our training session or training rooms are going to be capped around 30 or 40, which is kind of a standard classroom size. So that will allow for more one-on-one with the presenters or with the proctors, those who walk around and answer questions, or even the opportunity to just ask questions more freely.
That's great. Then, so how does it get handled that we do smaller rooms with more people? How's that going to all pan out?
So the space is large. It is absolutely stunning, and just seriously drop dead gorgeous. Like, you're gonna love it. But we do have a lot of rooms, so that actually played in our favor. We have, I think, like 40 plus rooms in the space that we're going to be utilizing. We do have the opportunity to open up the air wall in between. You can open up and make them larger, but we're actually purposely going to keep them smaller in a lot of cases. So that's one way that we're going to be doing that, is just thinking it a little bit more strategically of how to make it feel smaller.
That's going to be a good time. I know that 40 some rooms, so it was 23, I think, in 2018. So
so it's about double. This is definitely going to be the biggest 3D Basecamp to date. But every year our goal is to make it the best 3D Basecamp.
That's
and
right.
I actually truly stand by that this year is right now with everything that we have in the works, with all the secret surprises and all the things that we're planning, it truly will be the best year. So don't miss out.
We've already got a list of some very impressive presenters
We
too.
do.
I mean, it's people who have been presenting for years and years coming back to do,
Yep.
and also some new people who haven't presented before.
This conference attracts the best of the best. And the content team and we recruit the best of the best. So this truly, when I say it's the best place to learn SketchUp, I mean, it is, because you are being taught by SketchUp experts and the people that you look up to, who fly from all over the world to come to this event to give you an intimate, 30-to-1 training session. You can't get that very many places. And if you were to get that, the cost would probably be 3 times the amount. And you probably wouldn't get all the things that you do get at 3D Basecamp.
It's amazing because some of these people who are presenting don't present otherwise. I mean, It's not like you get somebody who is an active professional. They have to do their profession normally during the day.
Yeah.
So this is a cool opportunity where you can actually reap the benefit of people who are doing this for real in the real world.
Yeah.
For 5 days straight.
Yeah, and the coolest part about it too is that it's not like we just cater to one industry or to one skill level. Like at 3D Basecamp, it is 5 days of multiple tracks, all industries: architecture, interior design, entertainment, graphic design, landscape, construction, the list goes on. We have sessions for all of those folks. We also have sessions for beginner users, for folks who have never even opened up their computer and are just looking to learn SketchUp for the first time. And then we also have sessions for those who are advanced users and maybe are looking to kind of level up a little bit more or to sharpen their tool set. It doesn't matter where you fall in the spectrum, there'll be something for you, and you will definitely walk away with, probably 15 plus new skills that you wouldn't have even have known about if it wasn't for 3D Basecamp.
That's awesome. So going back to, let's go all the way back to your first Basecamp last year.
Okay, 2018.
2 years ago now.
Palm Springs,
because it's January. What was the thing that stood out as the most impressive? Like anything, could be a specific class, a feeling, whatever. What was the thing where you walked away and you're like, wow? What was your big impact moment?
So I've said this word time and time again, but community. I was so impressed with the SketchUp community. I have planned corporate events from all different companies and all different, sizes. And I've never seen such an engaged and such a friendly community. People truly came here and were treating other people like lifelong friends. For example, like I sat down for lunch and they didn't, no one knows who I am. I'm just kind of there running around. They do see probably like a little earpiece, and they know like maybe I'm doing something with SketchUp, but they don't actually know my role. And so I sat down at the table and I just started like chatting with people, and instantly they were so friendly, and I was kind of eavesdropping a little bit, I guess you can say, like listening to what they were saying to their peers, and like it was amazing. They were like, oh, I learned so much. That class was so great. Oh, do you want to join me for dinner tonight? I mean, the level of engagement was just off the charts. And normally you sit at a table and it's kind of like, hi, my name's Aubree. Where are you from? And that was not the case at all. People were instantly open and welcoming. And you could see it in the conference app. I mean, that's like a great example where I was told from Aaron that this, that our community was really engaged. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And we put up the app, and instantly it was like people were going back and forth. They were asking to carpool. They're asking to share rooms with each other. I mean, what other conference would you share a room with a random stranger? Like, you wouldn't do that. But at SketchUp, you do that. It kind of has this grassroots vibe. And because of it, it's still really special and really unique. So that blew my socks off. I totally was amazed by that. And I just, like I said, I just loved being able to walk around and everyone just comes together and is like, we're here for 3D modeling and let's just geek out and like have the time of our lives and share everything and, high-fiving. And everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm in.
I think there's there's a thing there where I think a lot of SketchUp users end up being kind of solo advocates in their lives, where everybody else is using this other software because they have to, because of the workflow.
Right.
And then we get these guys who are like, yeah, but check out SketchUp. Yeah, but we can push SketchUp a little further.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to go somewhere where, like, I've never lived in another country, but I can imagine living somewhere where they don't speak your language. And then finding that bar or restaurant where it's all English speakers and everybody hangs out.
That's a great example. Yeah. That's 3D Basecamp. You find you're in another country. That's seriously perfect. You're in another country and you find the restaurant or the bar that speaks your language or is playing your football team, whatever it may be, and you're home. And that's it. That's 3D Basecamp. You find your home.
That's awesome. Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, if anybody's listening, again, I don't know when this is going to broadcast. We'll make sure it happens before Basecamp.
I think that would probably be wise.
But if you haven't already, just do what you can to get there, because we'd love to have you.
Yeah. I mean, you really, this year, as I alluded to, is something special. And we're kind of going to be showcasing Creativity Everywhere, which is a grassroots hashtag that came about from 2018. Several people organically did that, and I noticed it, and I was like, that's cool. You know, they just came up with this like saying, and they kept saying like, oh, it's 3D Basecamp, creativity everywhere, or hashtag creativity everywhere. So I want to lean into that a little bit, because one thing I've noticed in this community is how amazingly creative everyone is. Like I said, it doesn't matter what industry you are, you have to be creative in order to draw or use SketchUp, whatever it may be. It's just absolutely off the charts. From the art gallery walls we had to the presentations, just everything was so creative. So we're going to lean into that a little bit more. So we do have some fun surprises for you guys that I definitely think you're going to want to check out.
Looking forward to it. All right. So any last words on Basecamp? Is there anything that we didn't get to touch on in there that your people have to know?
Let's see. I think I kind of already alluded to this, but I just want to, say this again, that 3D Basecamp is built by SketchUppers for SketchUppers. So that really puts into perspective, it is, this like Basecamp community where if you consider yourself a SketchUpper, then you belong there. That is your home.
Well, and I'll say this. So 2018 was my fourth Basecamp I'd been to.
Okay.
From the outside, and then I was lucky enough to be on the inside, which is super cool. It was like a dream come true.
And now you're helping plan it. Wow, full circle.
Yeah, it's been a big deal. But it was very cool. Like you said, coming in from planning corporate events, it was a very different position. And one of the things I appreciated was a couple times it took a little bit of convincing, but you did become very respectful of the fact that when I would say something like, okay, as a SketchUp enthusiast, I feel this way about that. And you didn't go, yeah, but the manual says, so it was a good thing to know that the people in charge of it are sensitive to that.
Oh, totally. Totally. I really do want to be sensitive to that. I mean, I will say I will push the envelope a little bit. But I think that's what, that's what the industry is doing nowadays. There's the old school events and the new school events. I'm definitely on the new school side. So I will be pushing the envelope a little bit. But I absolutely want to keep, 3D Basecamp at the core of its roots. I want it to be the same, but evolved. So I mean, we have to evolve, it's part of the program, but I never want to lose sight of what it was in the beginning. That's great. And there is a tie, not just because of the product, but there actually is a tie between your work on planning events, say Basecamp, and SketchUp use. Yeah. Actually, I would love to talk about that. So when I came over to SketchUp, and I started planning 3D Basecamp, Mark said, so you're going to use SketchUp to plan 3D Basecamp. Okay. And that's Mark Harrison. Mark Harrison, director of marketing at the time you got hired. Yeah, exactly. And so he told me that, and I was like, okay. And I had no idea how important SketchUp would be in event planning. Like I came kind of naive. I'll admit that. Like I would use like paper or Photoshop or something to kind of do space planning. And now, fast forward, I can only use a 3D model. Like, I am spoiled where I'm like, where's my 3D model? I need to show my vendors that, how we're going to be setting up stuff. So in 2018, when we started building the hotel and building the space, it totally changed the event planning game. I was able to have foresight into problems that could have popped up had I not put them in the model. And I'll use an example. So our huge 3D cube, I think you guys all probably remember that if you were at 2018. It's like this massive, massive cube. We have
10 feet tall, right?
10 feet tall, 10 feet wide, 10 feet deep. It's
Big
huge.
SketchUp logo.
Yep. And so we had it outside of the party. We had it lit up, and we had it just outside, I guess, in general. So our original plan was to put that inside the hotel, kind of in the grand entrance. We thought, oh, that'd be really cool. You walk in and immediately you see this cube. And so for a while, we were going with that idea. And then once we had the 3D model and we dropped this cube in the hallway, we realized that you would have like 1 foot to walk around and to get to check-in. Like you would have to like scoot by. And it was instant like that we knew that was a horrible, horrible idea.
Not gonna work.
And if we didn't have that model with like accurate measurements, then we probably would have showed up on site and built that cube, which takes, by the way, like 4 or 5 hours to build. So we would have wasted energy, time, resources, all of that, built it, and then realized, uh-oh, this is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea, like backpedal. And then backpedaling when you are on site an event is horrible. That's how you get behind schedule. That's how massive mistakes happen. That's how the domino effect, things just start to fall. So because we were able to catch that error before we showed up on site, we were able to prevent a really large mistake from happening. And that's just one example. I mean, we time and time again, we would drop stuff in the model and be like, does that work? No, that doesn't work. Or sometimes we drop in the model and be like, oh man, that looks amazing. Let's keep it there. And when I would go and communicate with vendors, so our AV vendor, the hotel, our decor vendor, furniture and decor, I would show them the model. And every single vendor was able to see exactly our vision to T. And they were blown away. I mean, our AV company had used SketchUp, so that was a flawless communication because they were just like, oh, great. We'll just
That's awesome.
we'll go back and forth. But the hotel, who is very old school, they their jaw dropped. Like they were like, wait, this is our hotel and we're walking through it in 3D. Like, this is amazing. So it changed the game. I cannot go forward without a model now.
That's awesome. Well, that's good. It's good to know that we've
You've converted me.
Well, that's good too.
I'm on the dark side. Well, actually, the good side, the light side.
Yeah. 2D paper's a dark side.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that we know that you do have a relationship with SketchUp, we're gonna jump into the portion of the show we call "How Do You SU?" And this is where we take a look at your own relationship with SketchUp. Okay. So I understand, as far as relationships go, you're newer, so you only got a couple years.
Yep.
But I think these will still apply. So some of these will be easier because they're more recent for you.
Okay.
First question is, what is the first thing you drew in SketchUp?
Probably a house. I think we had to do a little training tutorial where we had to build a house. That was the very first thing, or a room. That's really actually what it was. So that was the very first thing. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then my scale figure was second. And then a trade show booth was third.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to scramble to think of the first one, much less the second and third.
Well, you draw a lot more in SketchUp than I do.
All right. What is the most recent thing you've drawn in SketchUp? It could be a work in progress or something you recently finished.
That's a good question. I had help, but I went in and kind of was editing it, so I can't take full credit. But I'm also going to expand that question too. What is the most recent thing you've worked on in SketchUp?
Sure, that works.
That works? Okay, great.
That's acceptable. Not everybody draws everything from scratch.
Yeah, because my role is a little bit more like a director.
Workflow.
I have the grand vision, and then I work with the team to make it come to life. So we put together a model for our time travel party, which I feel comfortable saying because we're going to tell you all about it in the upcoming weeks. So we built, we're in the Vancouver Convention Center, so we have this really large space. It's kind of about the size of a football field. That gives you some perspective. And we want to divide that space into 4 different quadrants for 4 unique experiences. And all of those relate to the time travel theme. So you'll be going back in time to different eras, and you'll be experiencing what those eras have. So we had to build that model and kind of come up with a floor plan for our food, our 1920s theme, our American Frontier theme, and also our Miami Vice theme.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun.
All right. So of the SketchUp models you built, what has been the most impactful? And that could be on you personally or on someone else.
Well, it's definitely the 2018 3D Basecamp model, hands down. That like changed my perspective. And I was just so proud of everything that we built in that model and how it came out exactly as we built it. Like side by side photos, you'd be like, whoa. From our party to like just the grand entrance, kind of like what I talked about, where we're going to put the cube, how we changed it there, to our wayfinding signage. I don't know if you guys can remember, we had this really cool like Palm Springs vibe signage, to our scale figures, to our keynote stage. Like we built all of that in SketchUp, and I took photos of it in real life, and they're like side by side. They're perfect. And so I'm so proud that we truly brought something from our imagination to life.
So that may dovetail into the next question, which what is your best model, the model you're most proud of? And I think that's how you started that last answer.
Yeah, that's true. Probably 2018. But 2020 on its way to be 2018. And we've kind of just started building our model. We're still, I would say, in like phase 1 out of 3 or 4 phases. So we've just started it, but the time travel party is looking really, 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 really sharp. And I'm super excited to see how we evolve when we work with our production company and when we bring in that creativity is everywhere into the theme, or we bring our Forest Lounge to life. I think 2020 is going to beat 2018.
All right. We'll keep an eye out for that. All right. Flip side of that coin, of your models, what is the worst one you've done? So what's the thing you look at and you're like, oh, and maybe it's something even you abandoned.
Let's see, what's the worst one that I've done? Oh, good question. Probably some trade show booths that I started off with. Some of them are just like really, really amateur, because I was very fresh into learning how to use SketchUp. So everything is wrong. You and Josh would just like freak out if you saw it. So they're just sitting in the trash can somewhere.
All right, that's fair enough. All right, so you're going to have a unique answer on this one, because as a newer user of SketchUp, the last question we ask is, when you see somebody using SketchUp, like what's that advice you'd give them at the beginning? What are they doing wrong? So as a person who's been using it for a little over a year, 2 years, what advice would you give to a new SketchUp user?
So I've actually given this advice to new SketchUppers before. I tell them that there is a learning curve and to be patient. Usually when I'm talking with them, I say, have you ever used Photoshop? And then I tell them the story of the first time I used Photoshop. The first time I used Photoshop, I wanted to throw my computer across the room and smash it into a million pieces because I was frustrated. It's hard. When you first learn a software that is so powerful, it takes time to learn the shortcuts, to learn, where everything is located, and it can be really frustrating. So you have to really be patient and keep practicing. So I tell them SketchUp's kind of like learning Photoshop. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a point where you're going to get really, really frustrated, and that's totally normal and totally okay. Just keep persevering and keep practicing. I really think sometimes hanging up those shortcut cards too when you're learning, like right near your desk or where you can look at it every day so you can teach yourself, is very helpful. Or putting the stickers on your keyboard, very helpful, because it's just kind of muscle memory.
Mm-hmm. That's a good answer. I mean, that's That's up there with the people who've been doing this for like 20 years. Good job. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you very much, Aubree, for hanging out with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was fun.
And thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time.
And go to 3D Basecamp 2020. Whoop, whoop.
And that. All right. Thank you.
Bye.